We are officially hunting mule deer once again. By far my favorite season to hunt, but this year the weather's a little warm, so we'll see how this goes with mule deer hunting. But we're back at deer camp. Camp is just down here. I just left. I've got like a maybe 40-minute hike to get to the top of this ridge, and then like another 20 minutes to hike into the little spot that I want to hunt for the day. It's basically my usual route at deer camp, so we're gonna go up there and see if we get lucky. I'm gonna turn on my headlamp now so I can see. I didn't bring a lot of clothes, but I wore my little jacket here and hiked up as fast as I could. I was trying to hike up as fast as I could, get to that point where I'm just relatively warm so I can take off this jacket. I'm not to the point of sweating yet, but if I keep going, I will start sweating. So I want to shed a layer now so that I don't start sweating quite yet. Loaded my rifle just because, like 300 yards in front of me over here is like this little flat / meadow kind of, and it's a pretty common occurrence to run into deer there at first light. And so I just want to load my rifle, that way if I go over there and I see a deer, the deer's probably going to be anywhere from like 100 to 150 yards. It's still pretty dark out, so I got here a lot earlier than I was expecting. So we're just gonna sit down a little bit, cool off, let the sun come up, and we'll slowly sneak over there and peek into that little clearing. If we don't see anything, then we'll just keep moving up the ridge. Or like maybe 20 minutes into daylight, I haven't seen a single animal. So I didn't see anything in that little open area that I normally see deer. So I'm just gonna side hill the backside of this ridge all the way till it drops off. Once we get over here, we can glass this far ridge out on this side. I haven't heard one gunshot either, so I guess it's not just me that's having a slow morning. I can't guarantee a lot of things when hunting, but the one I can guarantee up around this part of the state is none other than the elusive cattle. You can always count on cows. It's a really neat experience to be able to hunt the same spot year after year, because when you're allowed to do that, you just have so many memories built up in so many different spots of this general area. For example, right up here, 7 years ago, I had a little forky just standing there looking at me. You don't really think about things like that anymore because they just don't really stand out in terms of like how big that memory is engraved in your mind, right? So if you just see like a forky there, it's not as prominent in your memory as if like you shot a buck right there, right? Obviously, if you shot a buck here, you'd remember that for a long time. If you just saw a doe there, you'd probably forget that you even saw a doe there. But I came and sat here because I wasn't seeing anything while I was still hunting. So I hopped over to this finger and I was sitting here, I was glassing, and I looked up there and I'm like, I remember that rock. There was a 2-point looking at me 7 years ago. And then if you just go back to where I was earlier when I was talking to you guys, I was standing like 30 yards from where I was when I shot my buck back in 2016 on opening day. And then just right over here, like 150 yards down this way, that's where my dad shot his buck last year. It's pretty cool to be able to just come back and reminisce about all the different hunts you've had in the past. It's pretty cool. But to get back on track, I've heard roughly 5 shots. I've heard some other things too that I think are gunshots, but they were too distant for me to figure out. But I know of 5 actual gunshots. One is to my back left over here, and then the other 4 came from right in front of me on this other mountain. I glassed up 2 other hunters on this big mountain across from me, and one of those 2 hunters, I don't know which one, but one of them shot 3 times. And then just earlier, when I was filming this segment, there was a gunshot down towards the valley over here. And so I know of 5 gunshots. None of them are my family, so I don't know. I don't know how the rest of my family's doing, but I've yet to see a single deer. So I'm gonna pack up here and drop down this way and start still hunting again. One new thing with me is on this trip, I'm hunting with a new rifle. This is my first time hunting with this rifle. I set this rifle up like 3 days ago. This is the Savage 110 Ultralight, chambered in 6.5 PRC. I have the Atlas V8 BT10 bipod on here, and I have the Vortex Viper PST Gen 2 5-25x50 first focal plane scope on here. And I also have the Salmon River Solutions Little Chub as my muzzle brake. And then for the ammunition, I'm shooting the Nosler 140 grain ballistic tip factory ammunition. This is the setup that I will use this season, but once season is over, I'm going to swap out my scope with most likely the Vortex Razor LHT 3-15x50. The point of this rifle is an ultralight rifle, and the Viper PST Gen 2 is not a lightweight scope. I just put the PST Gen 2 on there because I just needed a scope to put on there because I got my rifle in like the middle of season. So I had this Viper PST Gen 2 as a backup, so that's why I have it on here. But once season is over, I'll swap out the scope and have like an actual like lightweight mountain hunting rifle. But this is my first day out with it, so we'll see if we can break it in. I guess there's my answer as to whether or not I should have brought my 17 with me today. I have seen 0 deer. I have bumped 0 deer. And all I'm seeing today is grouse. I think this grouse is at bow range. 27.4 yards. They don't sit like this very often. I guess you could argue that the only reason why these grouse are sitting like this is because I don't have my 17 HMR with me. That's a big, plump blue grouse. He just took off and flew into a tree. But today, grouse are friends, not food. We'll keep looking for a mule deer. Oh my God. I just had 2 bugs, like 25 yards under me. 2 nice bugs. I jumped them right here. They dipped over right here, and then I lost visual. I think they went up. Oh my gosh, man. There was a cow over there, and that cow threw me off. I'm shaking so bad. I'm pretty sure I just caught up to those 2 bugs. But there's 3. But I think the third one is either a doe or a spike. His body was way smaller than those 2 bugs. I saw them over here, and I just took a guess as to which direction they went. And so I'm backtracking essentially, and I caught them like kind of trotting up through the trees on the other ridge. Self-filming is tricky, but I'll get this done somehow. go, baby.
Right.
Hey fella, there's doe right there. Big buck down, baby. Oh my god. Dude, I could cry right now. Self-filming when you are in the timber is one of the most frustrating things in the world, because when you see them a lot of times it's close quarters like that. And I got lucky that this doe didn't book it. If this doe ran, I guarantee you those 2 bucks would have took off with her. But as I was setting up my camera, I was like, in my head, I was just like, please doe, don't run, don't run, don't run, just stand there. And oh my goodness, dude. This right here, brand new rifle. This is the Savage 110 ultralight, and I just set this rifle up like 3 days ago. It took it on its first hunt, and we just knocked a nice mule deer down. Let's go look at him. Dead deer. Oh. I shot him on that rock. He was standing on the rock and he just fell over. Wow, I didn't even rack my second one in. That's how you know you're full of adrenaline, when your second round didn't even go through. He's in a pretty tricky spot. I can't get him out of this log, and this is like a straight drop. That's why he tumbled off that cliff down here. And my dad's coming down, so I might have to wait for my dad, but 4x5, opening day mule deer. Glory goes to the big man above. Oh my goodness. I am on cloud 10 right now. Oh.
Lo một của tụi cái nó á.
Did you law? Yeah, lucky. Finally pulled him out of that log onto this little flat that my dad and I was able to work out. It's not the best spot to butcher a deer, but luckily there's this nice little flat spot right here that we can drag him out and process him, so pretty lucky about that. But that's my 2022 Washington general season public land over-the-counter mule deer. It's been a roller coaster, not only today, but the season, this fall season that I've been having. I've been off to a pretty mellow start. August wasn't really all that productive, you know, just jumping around spot to spot for fall bear. And then September, you know, went down to Oregon, had a lot of fun with squirrels.
And then for Nate and our high country deer hunt, we saw maybe a buck about this size, but never was able to even get close to him. Of course, if you've been following the videos, I had a mishap on a high country bear. It's been a lot of highs and lows for sure throughout the season, and everything finally came together for me. I shot this buck maybe about an hour ago, right around 9 o'clock if I had to guess. And this buck, man, this was a story of just never giving up, because I'll be honest, I thought about forgetting about this buck and just going to a different spot. But I was like, man, if I'm already seeing bucks, like, I'm not going to give up on this buck just yet. So this morning I was glassing right above me right now. And up there, that's where I saw the cow, and that's where I saw the other hunters across on another ridge and mountain and stuff like that. And so I started side hilling how I normally do, and I started side hilling to the end of this finger ridge. And I got over there and I heard like some twigs breaking like over this little hump, so I couldn't see it. So in order for me to see it, I had to go up and over and peek into that little valley. And so right before I was able to peek where I heard those twigs breaking, I look over to my right because there's more twigs snapping to my right, and I see a cow, like this big brown cow. And I'm looking at the cow and I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, did I really just get fooled by a cow? I totally forgot about what was down to my left. I started looking at this cow to my right, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna take 2 steps over so that I can have a better visual of this cow, so I can record this cow. And I take 2 steps, and to my left, like 20-25 yards below me, I just hear a twig snap, and I hear the thump of mule deer hopping. And I look over and I just see these 2 bucks with their racks just hopping away. And immediately my adrenaline goes from 0 to 100. And I'm like trying to set my tripod on the ground. I'm trying to pull my rifle out at the same time. And I'm trying to like identify the deer if they were legal at the same time. And eventually they crested over this little dip. And I was like, if they dipped over that, let me just run across this hill so that I can peek down into the valley. But by the time I got over there, I think these bucks, they never walked. They just kept on trotting. So by the time I got to where I could look down, they were already past that valley. And so I never turned them up again. And so I stood there for a bit. I was contemplating, because I was like, where could they have gone? I was like, they could have came this way, or they could have just circled back where I couldn't see them. And so I stood there for maybe like 5-10 minutes. You know, I was walking back and forth. I was trying to pick up these tracks of where these deer could have gone. And I was like, you know what? If they're going this way, I'm just going to go and test my luck over here. And so I get on this game trail, and luckily there's a piece with soft dirt, and I see like a buck track in that dirt. And I was like, that's the track of these bucks. So I started slowly skirting the side of this ridge, and maybe like 200 yards across from where I am right now, I spot these 2 bucks and a third deer kind of trotting up this ridge like this. And I'm like, those have got to be those 2 bucks. But again, I said it earlier, I was like, I guarantee it's those 2 bucks, and it's either a doe or a spike, because when they ran up, the 2 bucks were ahead, and then the third one, which was a doe, finally came out. And when the doe popped out, I was like, there is a substantial body difference between these 2 deer that went first and the third deer. So I was like, that third deer has got to be a doe or a spike, and the 2 bucks have got to be in front. And so instead of side hilling where I was going to be below them, I beelined up the ridge to try to get high ground. And once I thought I was high enough, I started side hilling onto the ridge where I last saw him. And then I got to like right there, like 80 yards. And I look right on this rock right up here. I see a doe. I look behind her. There's the 2 bucks just standing and staring at me. And in my head, when I saw him, I was like, please don't run. Let me set up my camera and let me just get a shot off. Just give me a chance. And luckily, that doe never booked it. And so I think that doe really helped the situation, because if that doe wasn't there, I think these 2 bucks would have booked it. But because that doe was there, and does just tend to be more tame, her presence there kind of held these 2 bucks ground in place. And so in my head, I was like, as I was like moving my tripods, getting it set up, I was like, doe, don't run. Just give me a chance. Like, just let me shoot one time at least. And so finally I got my tripod set up, and he was broadside to me. The other buck was kind of behind him like this, quartering away. And I just saw this buck, and I saw his rack, and I saw the 2 little eye guards, and I'm like, I guarantee you he's at least a 3-point. So I shot, and I hit him a little high and dropped him in his tracks. I think I got high lung kind of spine-ish area, because it was a little closer than I was expecting. But shot him. He just dropped and rolled down into this little log jam right here, and then his buddy was chilling for a little bit, and then his buddy eventually took off. And then I came over here and the doe was still standing there, but then she eventually took off too. So I am absolutely jacked about this buck. Couldn't be more thankful. Got to give praise to the big man above. So my dad and I, we got a lot of work ahead of ourselves. I don't want to take too much time because after this, my dad's going to go hunt. So I want to give him more time to hunt. And so that's it. 2022 Washington General Season Mule Deer in the books. He's a 3-point frame on this side, 4-point frame on this side, and 2 little eye guards. That's my buck right there. Now the work begins. Currently breaking down my deer. And so if you are a new hunter, you're not familiar with the whole process of breaking down an animal, these are just like some spread tips for you. This right here is a bag that's made of breathable cloth. And these right here are often referred to as game bags or meat bags or meat sacks. They all mean the same thing. And so when you like get like the back strap or shoulder or just any meat off of the deer, you drop them off into these bags. And these bags right here, they have like micro holes in them, and that allows for blood to drip out of the meat, and it also allows for a lot of air to cool the meat down. But at the same time, there's protection from like bugs like flies and other little insects that might lay eggs. Once you have an animal down, like meat care is a very, I wouldn't call it tedious, but it's a very careful process where you want to make sure that your meat is clean, there's no dirt on it, there's as minimal hair on it as much as possible. A simple game bag like this is the way to go. There's a lot of different brands out there, but all of them work. So just buy whatever you can afford and take care of the meat. We work hard just to get this type of meat, and so when you have an animal down, like really take the time of breaking down the animal, take time to take care of the meat and stuff like that, because this right here is the best meat you can eat. Let me see what time it is. It's 11:45 a.m. My dad and I, we just got done breaking down this deer. Got all the meat, all the ribs and stomach and intestines in these small bags over here. Yes, we eat the stomach and intestines like that. It elevates deer stew to the next level if you have like the stomach, which is also called tripe, and like small intestines and stuff like that in the stew. So we're gonna eat good tonight at deer camp, which is always a blessing, to be able to go to deer camp every night and just eat fresh deer meat. That's a blessing in its own. So my dad, he actually just took off and he's gonna continue hunting, and so I'm just gonna take care of the meat. And so my day pack, for some reason, is pretty heavy. I think today I came up with like 30 pounds for my day pack. So I'm gonna take the lesser load with all my gear, and I'm gonna shuffle that first load to this little knob where my family typically stops at when we hike down. And then I'm gonna drop off load number 1 there, empty my pack, and then come back here, grab the heavy load, and then shuffle this second load back to that same spot. And then once I get over there, I can just chill, and if I feel like it, I'll start shuffling meat down to deer camp. But I haven't figured out what I want to do yet, because I do just like being up here and soaking in just deer season, man. Like my deer season just started and it's over, but I couldn't be more happy. I have a lot of partners and family members who are still hunting, so I can always help them out. But I'm done. So got the deer sculled out and got the meat. So I'm gonna eat some food and organize my pack and then head on out of here. Today I brought 1 full pack of egg salad. This is why I love day hunting, because since you're day hunting, you can bring essentially any type of food you want as long as you're willing to carry it, which I'm always willing to carry some potato salad, or in this case, egg potato salad. Once the hunt is over, a lot of people like to try to rush out of the woods. And to me, it's like, man, the hard part is essentially over. Just slow down and just take everything in. So I'm not even in a rush right now. I'm just taking my time, just really soaking in this moment, because over my 20-something years of hunting here at deer camp, this is my third deer. I've only killed 3 deer here at deer camp over 20 years of hunting here. So it's pretty special. All right, well, I didn't even get to my destination, and I ran across Daniel, so I was headed that way. He was coming this way, and he was still hunting, but he offered to help, so I wasn't gonna say no to help. So Daniel's gonna come help pack out the second load. I just dropped off my pack over there because I wasn't gonna haul my pack back and then haul it back. That makes no sense. So I guess no 2 trips for me. I think so far the family has 2 bucks down, mine and Chris. That's all I know so far, so we'll see what happens when evening hits. Today's been pretty slow. I just talked to Daniel. He hasn't seen a single deer today either, so I think we are definitely pretty lucky this morning to be able to find 2 bucks. So I'm gonna load up here and get on out of here. I'm still with my first load because Daniel has the second load, and I threw on the head, kind of strapped it with the lid as best as I could. I threw all the stomach and stuff inside there. Have my second orange vest. I'm still wearing 1 orange vest. I always have a spare just to put on the backside of my backpack, especially when you have antlers on there. So that thing's ready to go. Daniel's pretty much ready to go too, so we're gonna go drop this thing off at that little ridge, and then we'll see what happens from there. You bring a lot of water today? Really?
I have I think 2.5 liter bladder, and then I have a Gatorade, and then I have another water bottle.
Got a lot of water. All right, there we go. All loaded up. Just gotta get the rifle and slowly trek out of here. Daniel and I, we just split up. I still have my load, and then I told Daniel to drop off that load like 200 yards back over here, because he was gonna go and hunt just up on this ridge for the evening. So I was like, well, if you're gonna hunt that ridge, it makes no sense for you to haul that load all the way down here and then come back to go up and hunt. So I told him to drop off the meat there. And so I'm gonna take this first load and go to my original destination, drop off this load, and then go back and pick up where Daniel left off. That way we can still get the meat over there, and Daniel can hunt the evening. He helped a lot. He took that second load, which is the heavier load, and we did all the incline to get to that spot. Now from here to all the way back to camp, it's just downhill, but I'm just gonna go and drop it off at this first ridge first. Hiking down this trail, and right behind this little tree, like 10 yards, this doe just stands up from her bed. What an odd spot to bed. At least we know where there's a bed. camp is straight down this way from this knob, but I'm not gonna put the meat over here because that's in the sun and the sun's hot, so I'm gonna put my stuff in the shade. Gonna drop off my first bag of meat. I'm probably gonna go hide this head, that way nobody steals it. Empty out my pack, and then back up this way to go get the second load and bring it down here. I didn't even notice this earlier, but this guy's ear, this is like a healed cut, you know, so he's a split ear buck. His other ear is completely fine, but I don't know what happened here. Maybe he escaped death, or maybe he was just a naughty little fawn and got hurt when he was young. Nonetheless, he's back, so, you know, just super grateful for this buck. Although, he should probably, his tongue's sticking out, but oh well. Should have tucked it back in earlier. All right, let's unload. Made it back to where we dropped off Daniel's load. It's packed up, and back to where I was just earlier, where I dropped off my first load. And then from there, we're just gonna sit there, and then whenever it's time to go back to camp, we go back to camp. Whenever you have a heavy load and it just seems like your destination is out of reach, just remember, you are always one step closer each time you take a step. Little factors, little motivational factors like that go a long way for your mental game. Just gotta get past this flat here, and then drop down onto that finger ridge, and then at the end of it, that's our spot. Right, sun is gone. Got some help, so we are packing back down to camp. I'll go down there and cook some food. Ooh, made it back to camp. You gotta go do the meat, get it situated, and then I also brought salad this time. I know we're hunters, but you need fiber to digest as well, and so rice with deer stew and a salad, I think that's gonna hit the spot. But it's just me, my dad, my cousin Joe, and Daniel back at camp right now. Basically, the four of us, we brought the meat down from my buck, and we're still waiting for essentially half of the family to get back down here. As far as I know, today I'm one of the two that got a buck. Christopher, my little cousin, that's been hunting with me quite a bit. He shot one too, so I'm anxious to see how big it is when they get back.
Okay.
Day number 2 here at deer camp. Today is our final day here for the first weekend of deer camp, so we're gonna leave in a couple hours or so. Most of my family is still out hunting. They all woke up this morning and they're out there trying to find their own deer. I stayed back because I was really wanting to go back and shoot grouse, but I have to do chores, so I have to split the meat, because what my family always does at deer camp, or whenever we just hunt together, is we always split the meat evenly between the family. And so since I shot my buck yesterday and Chris also shot a buck yesterday, we have some meat here, so I decided to stay back and while the rest of the family is hunting, I'm just going to organize the meat. That way when they get back, the meat is just ready to go and we don't have to spend more time organizing the meat. So basically we're just spreading out the responsibilities here. So since I'm already tagged out, it just makes sense that I'm back here splitting the meat. So that's what I'm gonna do. But let me show you guys Chris's deer. I'm sure you guys saw this guy yesterday. That's my deer, and then this is Chris's buck. So Chris shot, he's essentially a 4x4 or a 3x3 with eye guards for those of you who don't count eye guards. But this guy that Chris shot, look how like pomaded this buck is. Like, he has one of the coolest like antlers I've ever seen. It's almost like a paddle, like a moose paddle, but like that is wicked sweet. That's Chris's deer right there, and there's my deer over there. So we have 2 bucks down here so far. Who knows what the rest of the family will pull today, but definitely pretty stoked about these 2 deer. We'll see if the family brings down another one today. This is the buck for the day. This is the 3rd buck for the weekend. Just a nice, narrow, tall 3-point. So that's 3 for the weekend. That's another nice one. And then again, this is Chris's palmated buck right here. And then this guy's going home with me. That's the buck I shot earlier or yesterday. So that's gonna do it. Part of us is heading home today, so we're just cleaning up whatever is our gear. And then I'll be back up here, not here, but I'll be back up in the mountains with Steve. Try to get him on a buck this week.